Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science, broadcasting from New York City. I want to extend a warm welcome to everybody on our Zoom call, all of you who are signing in from all over the country, all over the world, and a special shout out to those of you who are finding us on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to the center. Our group is growing by leaps and bounds. It's our pleasure to provide these lessons to you every week. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. we have a creative living series hosted by Jimmy most weeks. Thursday we have the longest self-healing group. That's a Louise class. I believe in the country. It's a large class and we'd like to invite you. And here we are Sunday morning with our lesson. I should say, first of all, everything we do here is free of charge. If you're not receiving our e-letter, please send us a private message with your contact information and we will invite you. If any of you feel that you would like to support the center financially, in the chat room, which you see here on the Zoom call, there's options and ways to do that. So let's get on with today's lesson. In religious science, you'll hear us say thoughts are things. And today, I want to ask you, are you your own worst critic? And, that's going to be true for most people. I'll say that, right up from the beginning. This idea is quite common. Talking to yourself is what we call in this teaching self-talk. Every Thursday, I might ask, what has that conversation been like? You can think of it also as your consciousness. The sum total of your knowing is going to be your inner conversation. So all your positive beliefs, all your negative beliefs, everything you hold to be true that ruminates inside your brain and your mind, this is your consciousness and it's always playing out. It's like you've got an ongoing movie going on, a projector. So your consciousness is always at work. And then you might think of this consciousness of yours being projected onto what we'll call the screen of your life. It's never idle. So your life is always an outpicturing of this whole constellation of your thoughts and your emotions, the whole thing. The good, the bad, and everything else. It's all about your thinking. So it's really important to pay attention. Today's question, today's lesson title, are you your own worst critic? And sadly, that would be true. We are. Most of us are our own worst enemy in that sense. But with this teaching, we have a method, a methodology, a way for us to turn a lot of that around. But let's go on with the lesson a little bit. So we talk about self-talk. What's it been like being you? You can think of it, again, as your consciousness. As I said a moment ago, your consciousness is the sum total of your knowing. The whole constellation of thoughts that run inside your head 24 hours a day. All of them create your world. And every person here is an individualization of this God life, meaning you have your own constellation of thoughts, your own consciousness, and your life is, your personal individual experience of life is a reflection of your consciousness. Sometimes what you're thinking is very conscious, but oftentimes what's going on inside of you is unconscious. These are things that have been going on in you since you were little boys and little girls, an accumulation of thoughts and ideas. It's habitual thinking, it's habituated thinking. The thing to know about your thoughts always is they are creative. So that's what we're talking about here today. So knowing our thoughts are creative, I guess I will ask that question for the fourth time. Are you your own worst critic? And of course we are, because we're the ones who say to ourselves, not good enough. I failed. I didn't make the grade. I'm not as good as my brother, my sister. I'm not as smart as. I'm not as attractive as. Whatever, that inner dialogue is. Your thoughts are creative. And once you become aware of it, you can turn some of it around, definitely to your own advantage. You can have dominion over your thoughts instead of having your thoughts and your thinking control you. Often and very unconsciously, our self-talk has incredible impact on our self-confidence, our progress towards our goal, our goals, our relationships, and the way we live our life. Many of us self-sabotage. We've got great intentions. You want to be somebody. You want to build a house over in another part of the area. You have all these dreams. Everybody has dreams, but unconsciously, the negativity runs beneath and we sabotage ourselves. And we won't have the progress we want towards our goals, our relationships. It's been told to me long ago in this teaching of religious science, of New Thought, that we're in the business of trading in the lesser ideas for the greater. So continually and always, we're challenging our thinking. When we go low, we go dark. When we, the person who has to challenge that, the only person who can challenge that, is you. The thing is, you have an ally in spirit, because spirit is always unfolding in greater terms, meaning its desire for all of us is expansion towards freedom. So, we're in the business of letting go of these old thoughts and these self-defeating thoughts and trading them in. And spirit becomes our greatest ally, because spirit's always there, as Emerson might suggest, wooing you towards the bigger idea. So today, once again, we're talking about turning these negative thoughts into constructive and positive thoughts. 12-step people might talk about getting rid of our stinking thinking, because that negativity, if you hold it inside of you, it's like a cancer. It just builds upon itself. And it builds upon itself. It won't take you any place you really want to go. So this is your internal dialogue. It's the most important conversation you're ever going to have because it's so creative. You are an individualization of God life. When you think, the world changes for you. What you hold to be true in your heart, what you know to be true, is reflected in your world. So this thinking goes on within us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We talk about it every Thursday when we ask about our inner dialogue and what it has been like being you. And usually what I'm looking for really first and foremost is for people to be conscious that they have this dialogue going on all the time. And then I want to ask, what's it been like? Has it been thumbs up? Has it been good? Have you been monitoring your thoughts? Have you been making progress in keeping it positive? And that's one of our biggest classes on Thursdays, where people are learning to love themselves. They're learning to remember that they are one with this one source, and that they have power, and that life responds to you according to your beliefs. So every Thursday night in this wonderful Louise Hay class, Louise incidentally was a student here in New York, I asked the question, what has it been like? It's my hope that everyone starts to harness that self-talk. You've heard me talk about the way we teach religious science to kids. There's a stagecoach and there's wild stallions, and there's an invitation to get out of your comfort zone, which is the coach, and to step up on the platform and take the reins. And that's where Ernest Holmes came in when he said there's power for good in the universe and you can use it. You get on the platform of that stagecoach and you pick up the reins and you start directing it. Because the thing about consciousness, meaning your thought process, which is going on 24 hours a day, it creates, it's acted upon by mind. What the mind can see and believe, it will achieve it. So if you want to create something different, then it's incumbent upon you to think something different. And if you want to go in a positive direction towards your goals, then you need to be mindful of your goals. You need to take the positive approach. Think of yourself handling that stagecoach. You don't want it going off the side of the cliff. You don't want it, going off a bridge. You want to be mindful and focused, and life will respond to you, because that's what life does. So as we as we think about this, many on this call have been working on themselves for many years. I've been teaching this material for many years, at least 3 decades, and I've talked about it. I've said things like, so we have this inner dialogue, this self-talk, every one of us. Some of us have been working on ourselves for a long time, and maybe it tends to be a little bit more positive, and you're demonstrating a lot of the fruits of working on yourself, because there is a quickening once you get a handle on it and you start embracing positivity and changing the lesser ideas for the greater. I've got a little jingle on self-talk for you here today, which I'll share now. In the mirror of our minds, a voice that never sleeps whispers tales of doubt in secrets that it keeps. Could I have done better? It often likes to say. Or why not start tomorrow instead of today? But what if this voice sang a brighter tune, cheering us on under the sun and the moon? Imagine a world where self-talk is kind, fueling our dreams, not trapping our mind. So change the chatter, make it a guiding light, turning our fears into a confident flight. For the voice in our heads can be a powerful friend in crafting a life joyful to the end. So we do have the power, we do have the potential to create this wonderful existence. We teach you this in our teaching. We intend to find a better way to deal with our thinking, especially our negative thinking, our critical thinking. We want to find a way to release that stuff as much as we can and as fast as we can. So we'll explore it a little bit more. Our self-talk is often very judgmental. This would be true of mostly everyone in the world. The world tends to be fearful, therefore the world tends to be negative. The world tends to think of the worst case scenario. This goes right back to, I'll say, the origins of mankind. You're wired to be afraid, to look out because someone's going to try to eat you or to kill you or something. But, we're no longer living in caves and stuff, and we can let go of many of those worries. So we have this fear-based reality that's in most of society. And when we come into this teaching, we're trying to cultivate a positive mental attitude. The studies show that people are judgmental and they don't feel good about themselves. Even Louise commented, the bottom line for most everybody in the world is that they don't feel good enough, or they don't feel that they do enough. So her book hit the scene and it became an international bestseller, many languages, many countries, because people don't feel good about who they are. They don't have positive expectancy for themselves. So you come here and you learn how to be a lifter, you learn how to love yourself. We learn how to practice. People who are in this teaching are called practitioners because they practice. There's not a single one of us who have arrived. We're always works in progress. And we have demonstration after demonstration. Things improve when we lift our consciousness up, when we trade the lesser ideas for greater, when we lift the whole conversation to a higher place. So the question for everyone is your self-talk mainly negative? Or, as you think about it, would you say it's positive? And I'm going to say most people it's negative, though people here in this room on this call, it might not be. Because there's a lot of you who really take this teaching seriously and you practice it. And for the people who are really working on themselves, they're unruffled, they're unfazed, they don't react to things in the same way that the average person does on the street, because they know that they're supplied and supported. They know that they live, they move, they have their being in this spiritual reality. And they know that everything that's happening in life is not happening to them, rather happening for them. So this is a wonderful group of people who come together and support each other in their forward development, their growth, their evolution. And it's always a privilege to be with you. And we're all learning from one another here. As I mentioned, the vast majority of humankind tends to be negative, fearful. They haven't found a talk like this. Or a teaching like this, rather. When you come into a place like this, we're not talking about redemption in the future, redemption in a future life. We're talking to you about the kingdom of good being here right now, that everything you've been looking for is already here, that the kingdom is established, that whatever you have been looking for already exists within you. So we suggest to take a pause, to take a time to go within and reflect on how great thou art. Meaning you are an individualization of this one life, whatever it is you are. We'll say it another way: spirit in me, as me, is me. So you're a part of it. Every person you can think of, the people around you, the people on the call today, everyone you can think of, it's all spirit, or as some people would say, it's all God. So we live in it, we move in it, we have our being in it. And once we begin to trust the process of life and realize, my goodness, I'm one with this power, and I can create a different kind of life, consciousness is going to respond to what I know. So the sum total of your knowing, what you understand, what you think, life responds to that. The universe is saying, your wish is my command. If you ever saw the movie The Secret, the big genie in the sky in the movie always said, your wish is my command. So whatever you know to be true in your consciousness, your heart of hearts, the deepest part of your inner being, it gets reflected. And if the conversation that is going on within you is positive or is on high, where you know that you are connected with Source, that you're a son or daughter of it, that you are one with it, however you want to language it, once you have that idea that you are living in union with this creative force, this one energy, everything opens up to you. Once you release the need to be fearful or to have doubt or to be critical, and once you really know that all of life is good and all of life is God unfolding, everything changes. Louise Hay would say, we remember and we forget. So when we come into our classes, which is when you come to these classes 2 or 3 times a week, we're always going to remind you of your connection with Source, that you are one with this one energy and that it responds to you eternally. It always has and it always will. And the other thing we're going to remind you is that you are growing spiritually and you're unfolding. And you may have gone through a lot of trouble in your life already, and you have gone through it. Notice the word, you have gone through. You're in a different place. You're stronger, you're more vibrant, you've developed a lot of insight and a lot of wisdom. Life has been unfolding for you. The things that have been happening have not been happening to you. They have been happening for you to bring you to a higher place of understanding. So how do we develop some positive self-talk? Well, there's lots of ways. First of all, you just start monitoring the conversation. You might say, I'm a good person. I like myself. You could try saying, I love and accept and approve of myself exactly as I am. Maybe you can't do that just yet, but you could start out with one of these other statements. I like myself today. Or I'm growing to like myself. It might be you can say, I love and accept myself. You might be looking at your physical form and saying, I love the way I look. I love my body. I feel healthy. Or you might go towards, I am successful, or I feel successful. I'm optimistic. I'm doing and feeling well. I feel supplied and supported. And you could go towards talking in terms of, I'm grateful for this situation or the people in my world, the people I love. These are all positive statements. And if they ring true, that the tendency of all that gets reflected in your world. Negative self-talk would go the other direction. It would sound like something like, I don't feel good enough, I don't feel successful, I don't feel that I'm attractive, I don't feel I'm competent, I don't feel I can do this, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm not smart enough, I can't, I won't, I just, that's kind of a negative mentality. Maybe you say, I don't feel attractive enough, everybody else is smarter, they're better, I'm lazy, I don't have any interest, I don't have any skills, I don't. So, usually I invoke Chicken Little in my talks. The Chicken Little was the character who used to scream, the sky is falling. So if you're a person who just carries around all this darkness and all this, everything's wrong and everything's missing, society's going to hell and my life is terrible, that's your reality. The thing to understand, though, is life's going to respond to you. So you come into religious science, we're going to tell you straight up, there's power for good in the universe and you can use it. And we're going to then say you are using it. And the question would be, how's it working for you? As you look to your life, how is it working for you? Do you love your life? Do you love the people in your life? Do you love the way you show up in life right now? Do you love the way you look? Do you love your friends? Do you love your, So if you're yes to all things, it's wonderful. There's something important, though, to understand when we're talking to ourselves. We're judging where we are. When we're talking to ourselves, we're usually talking about how we feel about something, whether, it's good or bad or otherwise. Can you think of any of the things you've said to yourself, say, in this past week about yourself? Have you been kind to yourself? Maybe you think you're getting stronger because you're exercising more, and maybe you're telling yourself you're doing better. Maybe you're feeling you're losing it more often because you're not taking good care of yourself. Or maybe there's places you notice where you're giving your power away. None of this is either right or wrong, but it's important to remember your life is going to reflect what you're saying, what you're thinking all the time. Your self-talk is your story. So whatever it is you're chattering about all week long, it's not as idle as you think. So if you're having one of those weeks where everybody's ganging up on you in your mind, there's got to be a time and a way for you to take a pause and reflect and to tell yourself a different story, because if you don't interrupt those types of days and weeks, it usually just keeps snowballing. In the classes I presented over the years, I would say, we're great storytellers. In our classes, or my classes years ago, Dr. Bill would he would call us names like Shakespeare. You're writing your own script. So maybe it'd be helpful to think of yourself as a storyteller, because that's what we do. We're always telling a story based upon our life experience, what we've been through. And the thing is, you are the main character in your own life, in your own narrative. We often craft stories made up of our past, our future ideas, our aspirations, and our perceptions of what's going on in the present. The fascinating part is that most of these stories are figments of our imagination. They're narratives that we've invented from our reactions to life. They're narratives that we have within us about what might happen or what has already occurred from our own unique perspective. These storylines significantly impact our lives, regardless of whether they pertain to the past, the present, or the future. Our self-talk, which we hear us talking about all the time, and today's title is, Are You Your Own Worst Critic? Our self-talk can resemble a relentless sports commentator who's continually replaying past mistakes, dwelling on our odds of failure and tarnishing our self-esteem. It can be like that. Our stories are not inconsequential, because if you keep telling yourself, positive stories, you're going to have one outcome. And if you keep telling yourself the negative ones, it's going to have another outcome. So our stories mold our worldview and shape our approach to life. So that's why I'm always asking you to pay attention to what you're thinking and saying. And the more we repeat these stories, these narratives, the more we accept them as true, as real, whether they're grounded in any truth or not. Sometimes we remain unaware of the stories that we're telling ourselves. Louise Hay would always caution you to, she would say the bottom line for everyone is they don't feel like they're good enough in some way. You've heard me talk about that many times. So that's why we invest time in our classes and our gatherings. We invest time in understanding this concept as awareness empowers us. So as we start to really understand what we're doing, there's power that we have that can be used constructively or it can be used destructively, as Ernest Holmes would say. Healthy self-talk allows us to reframe our past. It's like you can create a different childhood. It can help us recreate our past events, help us see things in a healthier way where we can gain insight into what happened and to what's going on now. And it will also help us take action towards our desired goal in the future. We hold within us power for good, as Dr. Holmes said. There's power for good in you that you can use. Self-talk can be a very potent force capable of lifting us up to remarkable heights. Hence, we must ensure that we're not our own harshest critics. So, those of us who embrace new thought are uplifters. We are the lifters. We relinquish the need to criticize ourselves. We release the need to criticize others. Have you ever noticed that you might receive a lot of compliments? You might go out and be somewhere and you get a lot of compliments, and the one thing you remember is the negative comment that you got. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it works. Our teaching advises us not to take things personally, but our brain tends to remember the negatives more than the positives, unfortunately. However, and this is through evolution. However, we've evolved beyond a survival mentality. We no longer need to dwell on what's the worst that can happen, worst case scenarios, or we no longer need to fixate upon what one person might have said. We teach you from the book Terry Cole Whitaker, the title, What People Think of Us is None of Our Business. We're here to learn to love, accept, and approve of ourselves exactly as we are. So we want to have moved past this place where we're so other-referred, where we get our sense of well-being from what other people think. We've reached a point where we understand that we're all evolving, and every single person is doing the best that they can in any given moment. Most of you who are on these calls regularly understand it. Perfect place, perfect time, all the time. We trust, as Louise Hay would say, that all is well and everything is unfolding in divine order. New Thought students, following Louise Hay's words and wisdom, practice seeing the divine, seeing the good in everything. In our Science of Mind classes, we talk about there being one energy permeating all things. It reminds me of a quote by Deepak Chopra years ago, who he spoke of, you could think of life as being a unitary field of energy. And we all play in this unitary field of energy. We all have our existence in this energy. There's not a spot where it isn't. If you let your mind imagine the furthest recesses of time and space, it's there. If you can go to the innermost realms of existence, to the atoms and subparticles, it's there. The furthest recesses of space, it's all energy. There's one energy, and we are all part of it. It's the all in all. Everybody here on this call, this extended call, is part of it. We are individualizations of it. We understand in our teaching that God encompasses everything. It's in all of us. And once we understand that you're one with the one, you realize how incredible you are, that you're awake and you're alive in this this energy that's all about love, and it's positive. And as you understand who you are and what you are, it leads to optimism. Because we're able to understand that we are awake in it, it's unfolding in us, that all of our life is moving forward. And we understand it's not just happening with us personally, it's happening all over with everyone and all the time. So one of my teachers used to say, there is that which is within you, and it's alive, and it's unfolding, and you're expanding, and you're growing. And the thing that's comforting is that's happening with everyone, everywhere, and all the time. If you are a pessimist, you would gravitate towards, thinking worst case scenarios and all the problems in the world and everything that's negative, and you'd just be drawn to that. But if you're in this teaching and you're really attempting to practice it, you're going to be moving increasingly towards living the affirmative life. We don't see ourselves as victims. Louise Hay would say, I trust in the process of life. So we're here to see the good, practice seeing the good. Edwina Gaines, one of my old favorites, a prosperity teacher, would always be talking about seeing the God in the good in the God. So that's our process. We're here to experience it, to see it. We want to, in this lesson today, release the need to be our own worst critic. And that's really getting at the core of the Louise Hay work, too, because that was what she was all about. Just never criticize yourself, and just stop the blame game. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop criticizing other people. Embrace the power of positive self-talk. Work with your affirmations. Build up your consciousness. By doing so, we can transform negative self-talk into positive self-talk, which will lead to increased self-confidence, greater happiness, and mental clarity as well. I'd like to conclude this morning with an affirmative prayer. So let's join together in a moment of silence. And let me say, for all of us, divine source of love and wisdom, we are here today, united in the pursuit of self-empowerment and positive self-talk. We release the need to be our own worst critics, knowing that everything is in perfect order. We understand that our stories have the power to shape our reality, and we choose stories that are filled with hope, love, and great optimism. May we be the storytellers of our lives, crafting tales of self-acceptance, self-approval, and growth. Let our words and thoughts be gentle, be nurturing, and filled with kindness, both for ourselves and for others. We embrace the unfolding good in the universe, and we trust the process of life. In this moment, we let go of criticism, and we embrace self-love. We affirm our worthiness and recognize the divine presence within each and every one of us. With hearts filled with gratitude, we step into a brighter future, confident of our ability to create the reality we desire. And so it is.